All right, let's be honest. You've spent most of your life collecting invisible report cards, chasing grades from people who don't even think about you twice. Every decision, every word, every silence runs through an imaginary audience. Will they approve? What if they think I'm wrong? You tell yourself it's just being polite, being kind, but it's not kindness. It's quiet fear dressed as consideration. Approval feels warm because it pretends to be belonging. But belonging that depends on performance isn't love. It's surveillance. You don't breathe, you audition. You don't live, you perform. And here's the painful irony. The moment you finally get the approval you've been chasing, you realize it was never the medicine. It doesn't heal the emptiness that made you seek it. It only feeds it. But this video isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about remembering the version of you that existed before the world taught you to earn your worth. Because real freedom doesn't begin when people finally like you. It begins the moment it stops mattering if they don't. Chapter 1. The prison you can't see. It doesn't start with weakness. It starts with good intentions. You just want to be kind, easy to be around, someone who doesn't cause trouble. But slowly, that desire turns into something else. Fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of disappointing someone. Fear of standing out in the wrong way. So you begin to shrink. You replay conversations, wondering if you said too much or too little. You apologize for things that didn't need apologizing. You hold back your opinions, your laughter, even your truth, just to stay safe. You tell yourself it's empathy, but it's really exhausting wearing a polite smile. Every interaction becomes a quiet performance where peace depends on how well you're liked. The painful truth? The world isn't judging you. You are. You built an inner jury that never rests. But freedom begins in that moment of discomfort, when you finally stop editing yourself mid-sentence. It feels strange, almost wrong, like walking barefoot after years in tight shoes. But that awkwardness isn't failure. It's the first honest breath you've taken in years. The first sign that you're starting to live for yourself, not for their approval. Chapter 2. The currency of approval. Approval feels like validation, but it's really just a currency. You give something away every time you seek it. Your honesty, your boundaries, your peace. You trade truth for applause, and for a moment, it feels worth it. Every compliment is a hit of dopamine. Small, intoxicating, and temporary. But the high never lasts. The silence after it fades becomes unbearable, so you chase it again. That's how dependency is born, not from weakness, but from repetition. You start believing that if people like you, you're safe. If they agree, you're right. If they notice, you exist. But none of that is safe. It's self-erasure disguised as confidence. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing approval, it begins to find you. People trust those who no longer bargain for acceptance. Peace doesn't come from performing flawlessly. It comes when you stop negotiating your worth like it's up for sale. Speak your truth gently. Leave quietly when it's not valued. What's meant for you won't require constant convincing. It will stay because you were real, not because you were perfect. Chapter 3. The fear of being disliked. For the approval seeker, being disliked feels like emotional death. It's not just discomfort, it's panic. You can sense it in your chest, that tightening when someone pulls away, that need to be explained, to fix, to be understood. You tell yourself, I just don't want them to think I'm a bad person. But deep down, it's not about them. It's about the fragile piece you've built on their perception. Here's the quiet truth. Being misunderstood doesn't mean you failed. It means you finally stood for something. People who live freely aren't fearless. They've simply stopped trying to manage everyone's version of them. Judgment says more about the lens it comes from than the target it lands on. Try this. Let someone misread you, and don't rush to correct it. Feel your body ache to explain, then stay silent. That silence is your strength returning. Freedom isn't rebellion or arrogance. It's the quiet calm that comes from realizing not every opinion deserves a response. The moment you stop begging to be seen correctly, you start being seen authentically, even if not by everyone. And that's when being disliked stops feeling like loss and starts feeling like liberation. Chapter 4. The peace of detachment. Detachment is not indifference. It's understanding. It's the quiet realization that you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You stop reacting, not because you've stopped caring, but because you finally see what's worth your energy. You stop trying to win because you understand there's nothing to win. When someone disapproves now, you don't crumble or defend. You simply observe, that's their lens. You start noticing how peaceful silence can be when it's no longer filled with the urge to explain yourself. That silence becomes your teacher. You begin to recognize that peace isn't found in being understood. It's found in understanding yourself. The noise around you doesn't vanish, but it loses its power to pull you. Detachment brings focus. You no longer build different versions of yourself for every person in your life. You build one, the one that feels true when no one's watching. And slowly, life simplifies. Not because people changed, but because your attention stopped scattering. You stopped chasing approval, and what remained was clarity. A steady, unshakable kind of calm that finally feels like home. Chapter 5. Reclaiming the Self. For so long, approval was your reflection. A mirror that told you who to be, what to say, how to act. When that mirror shatters, it feels like losing yourself. But that emptiness you feel isn't loss, it's space. It's the silence where your real voice begins to echo again. You start noticing the small things, the music you actually enjoy, the kind of mornings that feel right, the pace that feels natural instead of pressured. You begin to make choices without running them through the filter of, will they like this? And instead ask, do I? At first, your old habits resist. Approval was always your comfort, applause your safety net. But in the quiet, something far stronger grows, self-respect. It's not loud. It doesn't seek validation. It simply is. You no longer perform to prove your worth. You live it through stillness, through honesty, through alignment with who you truly are. And for the first time, you realize the person you were trying to become through their eyes was never as real as the one who's been waiting behind them all along. Chapter 6. The New Definition of Freedom. Freedom was never about cutting people off or proving your independence. It's not rebellion. It's not isolation. It's alignment. The gentle harmony between who you are and how you live. It's waking up and realizing your choices are no longer shaped by invisible eyes. You speak, act, and move not to be seen, but because it feels right. You no longer seek approval as proof. Your peace becomes your evidence. You learn that indifference isn't coldness, it's balance. It's the art of caring without collapsing. You say no without guilt. Tell the truth without rehearsing it 10 times and love people freely. Not because they'll love you back, but because love isn't a transaction anymore. The absence of approval doesn't sting the way it used to. It feels like oxygen. Light, unfiltered, enough. That's when life quietly transforms. Not because people became kinder or the world became easier, but because you stopped carrying the weight of who you were supposed to be. You've stopped performing and started existing. And in that existence, raw, imperfect, and real, you discover that the truest form of freedom isn't being liked by everyone. It's finally being at peace with yourself. You've spent so many years trying to be understood, twisting yourself into shapes that fit other people's comfort zones. But now you see that peace doesn't come from being seen clearly by others. It comes from finally seeing yourself. When you stop needing approval, the noise softens. The world still talks, but its words lose their grip. You no longer chase mirrors, you walk toward the horizon of your own becoming. Freedom, you realize, isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet. It's the steady confidence that your worth was never up for debate. And in that silence, free from the need to prove, explain, or impress, you finally understand. You were never waiting for their approval. You were waiting to return to yourself.